Hi, welcome back, guys, to the It's Her Business show. My name is Eva, and I'm your host. And today I wanted to talk about branding and engineering your legacy eight-figure brand. So, there's a few reasons why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because we talk about a lot about tactics and strategies and how to get to multi 6 and 7 figures and all that. But, one of my mentors, Kelly, says, only play the long game. And before you start putting together your retreats and your programs and all that, I want you to take a step back and think about, what do I actually want to create in a world? What is the difference I actually want to affect in the world? And then your retreat, which is what we're going to be doing next week, right? You're going to be designing your 7-day or 2.5-day retreat or whatever you have. That is going to come within what we discuss today. So, welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about branding. I encourage you to grab a sheet of paper or two. You're going to be doing some brainstorming. And then when you're done watching this, or for those of you guys who are done watching the replay, feel free to share kind of what's transpiring about your brand, about your method or model or formula or whatever you're going out there with. So here's the thing. Why do I want you thinking about this now? Honestly, I wish somebody sat me down at the beginning of this journey and said to me this, right? I wish somebody said to me, you don't need to be the next Ali Brown, Kelly Roach, Vanessa Simpkins, Grace Lieber, whatever. I wish somebody said to me, you're perfect the way you are. And your clients are going to come to you because of your energy, because of your experience, because of your model or formula or method or whatever. Because just like so many people out there for a long time, we was kind of stuck in the comparisonitis. Who am I next to all these big names? A lot of them were even charging less than me, right? Like, why would people pay me to be my client than to pay somebody like that, right? And, somebody reflected back to me, what my journey actually was and what is the gifts that I have to deliver. And there were a lot of things that I was discounting, a lot of the things that I was not seeing in the value that I delivered to the world. And it took a series of coaching conversations with my coach to get to, what my model is, what my method is, why do I deliver value and all these things. And those are the things that we really need to sort for ourselves. And I really want you to get clear on this before we go into next week's retreat. So for example, like what makes me different is that I'm literally obsessed. I'm not just, a business coach. I am obsessed with the levels of consciousness, muscle testing, spirituality, the Course in Miracles, and so on and so forth. And how do these things come together, right? I wasn't mentioning that because I was like, well, who cares? People don't care about that kind of thing, right? I was talking about being a #1 Amazon bestseller, but I wasn't talking about the things that actually matter, right? I have a hard time, why does it matter that I have a #1 bestselling book? That's not going to make any difference for anybody. Right. So I also wasn't talking about the fact that I used to own restaurants and, the brick and mortar experience and managing a team of 20 and things like that, because I was like, well, how is that going to matter to anybody else? Right. So I want you to think about, I really want you to use this time to self-reflect about what your brand is and what your model or method or formula is, so that you can then take that and design your retreat from that space. So usually I talk about this and I ask people, when you think when you think of Brené Brown, what's like the first thing that comes up? And most people say like shame or vulnerability or something along those lines. Nobody has any idea what her logo is, right? Or what her brand colors is or anything like that. Right? Same thing with Louise Hay. When I ask people like, okay, what comes to mind first when I say Louise Hay? Most people say self-healing or something like that. Nobody has any clue what her logo is, right? Same thing with Tony Robbins. Same thing with pretty much anybody who makes any difference in the space. And yet, when we talk brand, people are so obsessed with the colors and the logos and the fonts and the visuals and having the perfect title on Instagram and all those things. And they're like somewhat important, but they're like 1% of the brand, right? So when you think about your long-term brand, I want you to think about two things. Number one is your central theme, your central thing you're going to be known for, right? What is the central thing that you're going to write your books on, that people are going to know you by? It's like for Brené Brown, it's the shame thing and the vulnerability and shame thing. What is that thing for you? What is going to be the central theme, the biggest thing, the one thing that people are going to remember? We're going to instantly go, oh yeah, that's her. Everybody got it? And feel free to put it in the chat if you're thinking or if you're deciding between two. And this might be something you want to pray on, or just kind of set the intention to receive that if you're not clear on this, because a lot of people kind of like overthink it. They go into, should it be this and that, and they overcomplicate it, and it just doesn't work, right? So that's the first thing. Then out of that is going to come your signature method, right? Just like for us, we have the serve method. And by the way, it has changed about 5 times now what it actually stands for. And I just changed it again because I'm constantly evolving, right? I'm constantly evolving my methodology, and so will you. So I'll give you a free advice. It doesn't have to be an acronym, because sometimes people get too clever with the acronyms and it doesn't even make sense. And then I see like 15 shift methods out there and like 3 wealth methods and whatever. It doesn't have to be an acronym. It can just be your name. It doesn't have to be super clever. What is important, that it's clear from the name of the method what the central theme is, right? So for example, for the serve method, we always talk about service first as a value of integrity that we hold. We go out there and we serve like crazy. People are like, this is like a lot of work. Like, you're giving so many implementation calls and and giving so much. And on next week's retreat, we're going to be doing like different tracks based on your revenue and income level and stuff like that. And people are like, that's crazy. But that is the thing that is so important for our brand, that I strongly believe when you give, you receive. And the more and the higher value content I give, the more clients attract. And I've never been wrong about this. So that's right. Serve. Does that make sense, you guys? Serve the method. The acronym also means something, not just the letter, but also the acronym. Right? There's also, it can be called whatever. Like, you guys know, for example, the profit first method, right? Or EMDR. Everybody knows what EMDR is, probably. EFT, right? The 10X method. What's the guy's name? I forget. Right? So you want to think 15 to 20 years from today, what do I want to be known for, and how does this come together, right? What is the method or the formula through which I'm going to deliver people the results, right? So on one hand, you have the central theme that you're going to go out there with, and then you have your method or formula. And what it is and how it comes together, it's you literally taking a step back and saying, what do I know to be true? What are the steps that I know to be true I need to move people through for them to get the result? Right? What are the 3 to 6 steps? And honestly, it could be 2 and it could be 7. The number's not that important. What are the steps that I know for sure, like no fluff, like I really know for sure, if people do this thing, they're going to get the result? Does that make sense, everybody? what I was saying. And feel free to pop in the chat. What are some of those ideas you're having? What's your method? What are the steps that you're going to be taking people through? Sometimes you just know the steps and the formula will come together later. What I find that works really well is for you to take your method and teach it in the retreat. It works extremely, extremely well because people will get complete clarity about how they're going to achieve that outcome, and they'll have the confidence, and they're going to be much more likely to want to work with you to actually get that outcome than if you just teach a tactic in the retreat. And it's not that you need to stay completely away from tactics. We teach tactics too, just because I want to demonstrate that we're not just strategists. We also understand like people need the nitty-gritty implementation. So for example, on day 4, we teach a lot of lead gen and how to actually fill your retreat and all that jazz, right? But I made that jump last year, about a year ago. I decided to completely elevate the content in my virtual events and go really, really strategic. Why did I do this? People ask all the time, how do I attract high-level clients? And this is how, right? Because the people, and I want you to hear me on this, the people that you have been complaining about, the people who just jump from retreat to challenge and download all the freebies and try to get the free stuff and never actually sign up to work with you, they're the tactics collectors, right? They're the ones going around and getting from tactic to tactic to tactic, and they actually never get the result. So to deal with that, you got to up-level your content. You got to go really high level, very, very strategic. And again, it's not that you stay away from tactics, you do that too, but you up-level your content and you really give them your method, the formula on a whole nother level. And you're going to be speaking directly to the people who understand the importance of strategy, not just tactics, who really want the whole package, not just, how to launch YouTube video. Does that make sense, you guys? Is that making sense to everybody? And a few things you also want to think about is within your brand, there is 4 different things you want to make sure you have covered, okay? The first one is your leadership. I have an acronym for this. Surprise, is the LEAP acronym. The first thing is your leadership, right? So people get too stuck in teaching. They just teach, but then nobody ever signs up to work with them because there's a leadership element missing, right? And what it has to go do with is your values, what you stand for, your stories. You're making sure you're communicating, you understand where they're coming from, their pain points, all those things, right? But most importantly, inspiring them into action. Inspiring them into action. That's leadership. Information alone doesn't do the thing. You also get people to take action, right? So that's where the leadership comes in. The second thing is emotions, right? You got to be really clear about what emotions you want people to experience when they come to your retreat. And there's no right and wrong, right? Everybody's different. Everybody has a different energy profile, right? So this also has to do with your energy and how you lead. I like to use the 4 energy profiles by Carol Tuttle, the type 1 through type 4. And I'm a very strong 3. That means I'm very much, results focused. I really love getting people results. I'm like, check, check, check. I'm a hyper performer. The 2s, those of you who are listening to this who are the 2s, you're not like that at all. You're very grounded. You're very centered. You're very patient, right? You're very good at creating things like sisterhood circles, making everybody feel comfortable, creating an atmosphere of sharing and all that stuff, right? So you want to figure out who you are and not try to be that which you're not, right? And lead from that space, and your brand needs to align around that, right? So because I'm such a strong 3, and my whole program is literally around, taking action and action as the means to transformation and all those things, right? It's totally in alignment with my brand. If I did series of like meditations Monday through Friday in my program, it wouldn't go, right? It would so not be in alignment with who I am. I hope that makes sense. The next one is A for authority. So yes, you have to lead, you have to inspire, but you also have to give them lots of value to build your authority in the space, right? You gotta be teaching real deal stuff. And this is where people too often turn into copycats, where they're looking at what everybody else is doing and they're teaching the stuff that everybody else is teaching, right? So for example, I could be teaching about how to build an email list. I could be teaching about how to set up your profile on Instagram. But that is just not where I want to be. I'm teaching, with my teaching, I'm trying to up level constantly, right? We teach a lot about 8-figure branding, team profitability, creating 6-figure retreats, things like that. Because the tactical stuff, anybody can YouTube or Google and get the answers, right? And the last thing you want to think about is positioning. And this is really an art. And it's a skill. When you think of your retreat, you need to think about creating a retreat that people absolutely need and want and will put their butt in a seat for, like, no matter what. Too many times I see retreats there on 7 days of self-care, right? Or I don't know, right? Like just like a random like life transformation. There's no problem with that. Those are really, really important. However, from your prospective client standpoint, those are nice to have. You do not want to have a retreat that is nice to do. You want to put in a retreat that is solving an urgent pain point that if people are not there, it's going to be a problem, right? I'm going to run through this again. Hopefully you guys are getting something out of this. I'd love to hear like what ideas you have and any mindset shifts that you guys are having already. So, engineering an 8-figure brand. Number 1, you're going to start with a central theme and the one thing you want to be known for. What is the central idea, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, you want to use your retreat to introduce your method, model, or formula, which is basically a series of steps that you absolutely know, like no fluff, right? Eliminate all the fluff. Like what are the essential and non-negotiable steps that people have to do to go from point A to point Z, right? What is your formula? And then you're going to use the retreat to teach that formula, okay? Now, you want to think about, as you're teaching this and as you're promoting your retreat, the 4 different pillars, the 4 different aspects of your brand. Not just the what, but now the how. So number 1 is leadership, making sure you're sharing your values, right? Making sure you're sharing your stories, making sure you're inspiring people into action, right? And again, the reason for that is that you're tactical buyers versus your transformation buyers. Your tactical buyers don't care about your values and all that stuff, right? But your long-term buyers, the people who want to pay for transformation and who are actually willing to spend, multi-thousand dollars with you, right? They really care about these things. They really want to make sure that their values are aligned with your values. That's why you need to talk about it, right? Then your energy, right? What are the emotions you want to evoke in people, right? For us, it's, taking action, it's inspiration, it's getting results, it's being unstoppable, it's pushing through fear, it's 10xing your courage, it's, being completely unreasonable with the amount of service you provide, things like that, right? Which is very different from what everybody else is teaching there, which is like, oh, it should be easy, you should be in the flow, and yada, yada, yada. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not my brand, right? Then there's the authority, really elevating what you're teaching to differentiating from everybody else, right? Don't teach the things that, YouTube is full of, because people won't have any reason to come to your retreat, right? Really have the courage to elevate it. Don't dumb it down. There's too many dumbed down retreats, right? You guys are the experts. And the last thing is positioning. Really, truly creating your retreat and everything else in your brand about what people actually need right now versus what's nice to have. All right. I hope that helps. I am super excited. I wanted to have this quick conversation with you guys before we go into next week's retreat, because you're going to be creating on day 2. You're going to be creating your retreat. On day 1, we're going to get your program covered. So we're going to talk about creating a hybrid program and, how many people you're going to have in it, what's the price point, should you do one-on-one first, things like that. Then we're going to have breakout rooms or breakout Zoom rooms, I'm not sure yet, for different tracks, right? This is why we asked you when you come into the group about your revenue level, because we're going to put you based on your revenue level into different tracks. So we're going to have probably a 0 to 80K track, 80K to, 130 and 130 to million. I'm not quite sure yet how we're going to break it up depending on where people are at, but we're going to have different breakout rooms. And then we're going to have somebody on my team teach specifics in that room. And we're going to do Q&A implementation, because how the hybrid program breaks down and what's the next steps you need to take, it really depends on where you're at in your business. Then on day 2, we're going to be talking about retreats. That's going to be the same for everybody, right? Whether you're at the very beginning or whether you're already in 300,000 or whatever, it doesn't matter. The 7-day retreats work for everybody. We're going to keep that the same. Then I'm going to walk you through on day 3 a 12-month roadmap that I use to go from literally like near nothing, like $2,000 a month or something or whatever, to having our first over $500,000 month 18 months later. And we're probably going to do breakout sessions on that too, because the next 12 months for you, it's also going to depend on where you're at with your business. Day 4, we're going to talk about lead generation and how to fill your retreats. That's everybody, same for everybody, right? The only difference that's going to be, the only thing that is going to be added on for those of you guys who are already at the 6-figure mark is going to be Facebook ads, right? And you still need to do all the organic lead gen as well. And then day 5, we're going to talk about team, which we might again, I'm not sure yet. We'll see what feedback we get. We might do breakout rooms again, because we're going to be helping you build your team. I'm going to be teaching the process and the trainings that I use in my company to make sure every single one of my team members that joins the team generates a minimum of $30,000 within the first 6 weeks on the job. So I'm going to be sharing the training systems we use for that. And then we might do some breakout rooms depending on where you are, because some of you guys are at the beginning, hiring your first VA, versus some of you are ready to do your first full-time hire or 3, right? So, and then we go into mindset over the weekend and we bring it all together in a 12-month roadmap with the skills that you're going to be building, the number of registrations you need to be getting, doing some math, projecting your revenue, things like that. So I'm super, super excited about that. If there's anybody who's not registered yet for next week, super, super excited to have you, but make sure you pop the word retreat in or jump over or tag Selena. She's going to help you jump over. The registration link is evapolakova.com/retreat. If you're watching this in the May retreat group, you're already in, so you don't have to worry about it. Super excited to connect with you guys. Make sure that you connect to Ildiko or River or Sam or Melissa or Jay before the retreat. Make sure you schedule your connect call with them. They're doing like 5-minute connect calls to get you set up for day 1. Make sure you have all the things on your calendar to get to know you, because they're going to be customizing the experience to you. You're going to have an implementation call with them on day 1 or day 2. You're going to get to pick whatever works for you. And so you want to get to know them. You want to make sure they know your business so that you're not wasting time going back and forth after day 1, because you're going to be super, super, super busy with implementation. So how this is going to work: on day 1 through 7, we're going to be on Zoom for about 45 minutes. Then some of the days there are going to be breakout sessions where you're going to go with your track and with the entrepreneurs who are at the same level that you are, and we're going to be speaking to you and your strategy directly. Then there is going to be implementation calls on Monday and Tuesday with your advisor, where you are going to be taking what you learned, then you're going to do your homework on it, and then you're going to go back and forth with your advisor on an implementation call to make sure you get your pricing right, you get the name for your retreat and program right, you get some advice on positioning around it, how long should it be, all those things, so that you're very, very clear before we move into day 3, right? Because on day 3 and 4, we're going to dive into the days, like you gotta file days 1 and 2 away. Like, no, this is what I'm doing. This is how long it is. This is what I'm teaching in order to move forward. So make sure you get to know your advisor. They probably already reached out. You probably have already a message from them. So check your message requests. If somebody doesn't have an advisor, make sure that you put I need advisor in the chat, and we're going to make sure we match you up. I am so excited to spend the next week with you guys. I don't make a lot of promises, but I promise you one thing. I can actually guarantee that if you actually give this your best and you show up, you're going to this is going to be the most transformative week of your life business-wise. We had people who come to this and they were at the beginning, like nothing happening. And within 2 or 3 weeks, they had their first retreat and generated $50,000. We just had somebody who attended her retreat, her Serve Method retreat, I want to say 4 months ago. She just finished. She did her first retreat 6 weeks later, generated 120K. She just finished a second retreat with 145K in revenue. Okay. So those are some of the results that you should expect, right? And I would go into it. I would set the intention and really expect the most amazing results. And there's also a worksheet that has been posted in the group. It's somewhere near the top. Make sure you print it, and there's a pre-retreat homework. It's not that you have to do it. Nothing is like, oh, you must do this, otherwise you won't get the result, not like that. But there are some intention settings, so you really want to read through it and say, okay, this is what I'm going to create, get in touch with your advisor and really emotionally prepare, as well as set some time for the homework and make sure you're on all the calls. Because yes, we're going to be streaming replays for people who are over in Europe, but they won't get to participate in the breakout rooms, right? So, or actually people in Europe can totally make the lives. I think for folks in Australia, unfortunately, it's 3 a.m. their time. So for folks in Australia, we're going to be sending you the replay. But yeah. All right. So thank you so much for joining me live here. For those of you guys who joined late, I'm going to post the recording of this so you can go in from the beginning. I cannot wait to see you next week. Like I said, connect with your advisor, download the worksheet, get ready mentally, emotionally, physically. And I cannot wait to see you on Zoom at 12 Eastern on Monday.